Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, my dear listeners. How are you? Hope that you are very fine by the place of Armatura and watched my previous classes smartly as always connected to with me. My dear listeners, this is Saiful Islam, an assistant teacher of our Indian School of Bangladesh, and you are most welcome. Saiful English Academy again. Dear listeners, and today's class have been present in front of you, the new advancement new class named changing sentence from simple to complex to confirmed with the reference of my previous classes. So, my dear learners, now let's take a look at the board and try to understand. My dear learners, in my previous classes, rule number one, you were told that about simple to complex to confirmed. The relationship was in rule number one that my dear learners by plus gerund equal to if equal to and okay, my dear learners, rule number two was that my dear learners in my previous class was that relationship was that without plus gerund equal to if you don't equal to or okay, my dear learners, and with our reference from my previous classes, today's class have been present in front of you with a new argument class named simple to complex to compound. Today's class, I'm trying to highlight about what the connection or relationship among present participle is equal to when is equal to and. But my dear learners, you have to mind that. Present participle is used in a simple sentence. When is used in a complex sentence, and is used in a compound sentence. Of course, you know that because it was the discussion matter of our previous classes. My dear learners, now let's take a look at the board and try to understand. I have written an example. But my dear learners, at first try to identify what category of sentence is this. Reading English, I went to bed. I went to bed. My dear learners, this sentence has two parts. One part, I went to school is a principal clause, and another part, reading English, of course, a phrase. Of course, a phrase. My dear learners, you tell that if any sentence has a principal clause and has a phrase, of course, that's a simple sentence. Suppose your child to change this category of sentence into complex. And then what will it do, my dear learners? You'll have to mind that, my dear learners, at the time of making understands about the definition of a complex sentence is that complex sentence has a principal clause and a subordinate clause. In the sense, keeping unchangeable principal clause, my dear learners, you will have to change the phrase into subordinate clause. So, my dear learners, try to understand what's the main precondition of a subordinate clause. I know that you remember my previous classes. The precondition of a subordinate clause, at first you will have to use a conjunction, subordinating conjunction. In this case, you will have to subordinating conjunction oil. Okay, my dear learners, then you will have to use subject. So, my dear learners, in this sentence, subject is you'll have to bring out subject from the principal clause. Get subject I. Okay, my dear learners, then you will have to use finite verb. My dear learners, this finite verb must be written according to verb or principal clause. Take a look at the board and try to understand. White, of course, Vito form of verb, and then you will have to use Vito form of verb of read. So, my dear learners, Vito form of verb read is of course read. Then extension of the fried English. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. This phrase must change into a subordinate clause. Then now write the principal clause. I'm sure that. Okay. my dear learners. Now this sentence must be changed into complex sentence because this sentence has a principal clause and subordinate clause. Subordinate clause that you have understood clearly. সালাম আলাইকুম। ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম। হ্যাঁ, হ্যালো। জি। কোথায় আছেন আপনি? না, অবশ্য খুঁজে আছি, বেরোবো। সাইকেলের ওখানে রাখবেন? ও আচ্ছা, রাখেন তাহলে। তাহলে বিকালে এক সময় নেবো রে ভাই। লাস্ট টাইমের মোটামুটি ওই 10-15 জন ভাই। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, প্রাইভেটে মোটামুটি 12 জনের মতো ভাই। আছে, কয়েকটা আছে, ওটা দেখবো নি, সমস্যা নেই, বলেন নাই। হ্যাঁ, শিওর ভাই, শিওর, ইনশাল্লাহ। সালাম আলাইকুম। Okay, Major, so that you have understood it clearly. Now, Major, suppose you are told sustenance of statement into a compound sentence, into a compound sentence. Then, what will you do in this case? Major learners, you'll have to mind that, Major learners, at the time of making understands about the definition of a compound sentence is that a compound sentence is a type of sentence which has two principal clauses, mixed with coordinating conjunction. Coordinating conjunction. So, my dear learners, already we have gotten a principal clause, and in this page, you'll have to use coordinating conjunction and middle of the statement, and you'll have to change this phrase into a principal clause. Into a principal clause. So, my dear learners, I hope that you have understood clearly. Now, my question to you: what's the main precondition of a principal clause? You'll have to mind that the main precondition of a principal clause at subject, at first subject, then finite verb, then extension. My dear learners, so try to bring out subject. In this phrase has no any subject, and you'll have to bring out subject from the principal clause. The subject of principal clause, of course, I. So, my dear learners, we have to write I. Then you'll have to use finite verb according to a verb of principal clause. My dear learners, you know that, my dear learners, orange is of course a video form of a verb go. And in this case, you'll have to use video form of verb read. So, my dear learners, the video form of verb read, of course, read. Then extension. Okay, in this at this moment, this phrase changes into of course a principal clause. Now, middle of the statement use coordinating conjunction and then principal clause. You have to mind that there is no any change of the principal clause. I want to bed. Okay, Major. Let's now think about this sentence is a compound sentence is or not. Major. Let's at the time you make you understand about the definition of a compound sentence is that compound sentence is a sentence which has two principal clauses mixed with coordinating conjunction and so but as well as either the or that of that you have understood clearly. Major. Let's now. Major. Let's I'm writing another example to make you understand. cooking, right, mother, oil, show, wait. Okay, my dear nurse, this sentence is of course a simple sentence because this sentence has a principal clause and a phrase which is mixed with a present participle. Present participle. Okay, my dear nurse, suppose now you are told to change this sentence into complex. So, what strategy should you check it to change the sentence into a complex sentence? Medial learners, you have to mind that at the time of forming a complex sentence, you must bring out a subordinate clause and a principal clause. So, medial learners, already a principal verb, principal clause is here, but you'll have to change the phrase into subordinate clause. Subordinate clause. And main precondition of our subordinate clause, of course, you know that material alerts, which was the discussion matter of our previous classes. Main precondition of our subordinate clause, of course, at first you have to write a subordinating conjunction. In this case, you have to use coordinate conjunction on. Then subject, take a look at the code and try to understand. So this one has no any subject, and you will bring out. You will have to bring out the subject from the principal clause. Here, subject of principal clause, of course, mother. Then you'll have to use a verb according to the verb of principal clause. So my dear learners, in this phrase has the verb cook, V2 form of verb cooked. Then extension. Now think about this clause, material learners, and this clause of course a principal subordinate clause because and this clause has a subordinate conjunction, a subject and a finite verb. Hope that you have understood clearly. Now write the principal clause. Write the principal clause. The principal clause is that mother owing to bed. Hope that you have understood clearly. Nonetheless, now suppose you are told to change this sentence into a compound sentence. Compound sentence. Then, what techniques will you take in this phrase? Mind that, my dear learners. What's the main precondition of for subordinate clause, which was the discussion matter of a principal clause? The main precondition of a subordinate clause is that any coordinate conjunction use middle of the statement and both sides principal clause. Both sides principal clause, and already in this sentence has a principal clause. So, my dear learners, in this case, when you are going to change the sense of a simple sentence into a compound sentence, you have to use middle of the statement, the coordinating conjunction, and middle of the statement, and you'll have to form a subordinate clause from the phrase cooking rice of the you have understood clearly. Now, try to solve yourselves. At first, to form a principal clause, you have to bring out at first subject. But of course, you know that a phrase has no any subject, but you have to bring a subject from the principal clause. The subject of principal clause, mother. Then you'll have to bring out verb. Here verb cook. Here verb cook, but you will have to write verb according to verb of principal clause. So principal clause has a verb with form of situation, and in this case you will have to use with form of verb cook. Of course, the cooked is the with form of verb cooked. Then extension right. Okay, maybe let's now think about this clause. This clause has a subject and a finite verb. So, maybe it's the main precondition of a fictional clause. So, maybe let's now try to use coordinate conjunction. In this case, you have to use coordinate conjunction and middle of the statement. Then write the principal clause of this statement. Your principal clause of the statement is mother went to bed. Mother went to bed. That means she went to bed. Okay. My dear learners, now try to think about this sentence is a compound sentence, each or not. My dear learners, this sentence has two principal clause, which is joined together by coordinating conjunction and of that you have understood clearly. Now, let's go to practice another example. Suppose, my dear learners, another example, when Roman finished her home work, she went to school. Okay, that's I have written a complex sentence starting with when, when, and you are told to change the statement into a simple sentence, So, my dear learners, in this case, what techniques will you check to change substance of statement, especially starting with when into a simple sentence? My dear learners, you have to mind that there is a principal clause and a phrase in a simple sentence. Already, this sentence has a principal clause and a subordinate clause and at the time of changing substance of statement into a simple sentence, you should not change the principal clause. You should change the subordinate clause into a phrase. So, my dear learners, what is the main condition of a phrase? We know that the main precondition of a phrase is that you must be out, subject must be out, and you'll have to present participle of the verb. Here, verb finish. That means finishing, and extension of this clause, subordinate clause, are home work. Then, right, now think about this subordinate clause is changed into a phrase. Okay, maybe let's now write the principal clause. The principal clause is that Rome into school. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Now, my dear learners, think about this sentence. This sentence has a principal clause and a phrase. Of course, this simple sentence. Now, my question to you, my dear learners, if you were told to change substantive statement into a compound sentence. So in this case, what techniques will you check? My dear learners, you'll have to mind that compound sentence has two principal clauses and joined together by any coordinating conjunction. So, my dear learners, already this sentence has a principal clause and you'll have to change this subordinate clause into a principal clause and it's easy method to change substance of subordinate clause into a principal clause. Of course, you know that, my dear learners, the main precondition of principal clause is at first you have to use subject, then finite verb, extension of subordinate clause, verb, homework. Now think about subordinate clause must change into principal clause. It's easy matter. If you delete subordinate conjunction is deleted, that in this case at this moment any subordinate clause it change into principal clause. That's enough. That means shortly I can suggest to you must delete the subordinating conjunction on. Then, middle of the statement, instead of comma, use and then now write the principal clause. Roaming, she went to is full. Now think about what categories of sentence. This sentence has two principal clauses and joined together by coordinate conjunction and of course this is a compound sentence. Hope for that you have understood clearly. Now I'm trying to show you writing another example. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Rice, cooked rice, and soup, oil, throw that. Take a look at the board and try to understand. So this sentence is, of course, a compound sentence because this sentence has two principal clause. Two principal clause next to its coordinate conjunction and. Okay, my dear listeners, I have no any talking about this, but my question to you: if you are told suspense of statement into a simple sentence, what technique will you do or should I do? My dear listeners, you'll have to mind that there is no any chance of second principle was second principle was at the time of changing suspense of statement into a simple sentence. You have to mind that, my dear learners. You'll have to change the first principle clause into phrase into a phrase. So, my dear learners, try to change this principle clause into a phrase. At first, right verb to be one form of verb cook, then add ing, then extension of this clause, principal clause, that means cooking right, and then use comma instead of and, middle of the statement, then write the principal clause, right, point two. But now think about this. This is a simple sentence, is or not, my dear learners. This sentence has a principal clause and a phrase. Of course, this sentence is a simple sentence. Of course, that you have understood clearly. Now, my question to you: if you are sure to change such a category of sentence into a complex sentence, in this case, what strategy should you take at the time of changing into a complex sentence, my dear learners? It's easy method to change an principal clause into a subordinate clause. And especially in this case, you'll have to use beginning first of this principal clause subordinating conjunction when, and you would comma instead of and middle of the statement of that you have understood clearly. When rice cooked rice she orange bed. Hope that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, I don't want to learn in today's class, but before starting to finishing today's class, I want to share some information with you, my dear learners. Of course, you know that I'm a new teacher, a new channel, and I'm trying to use English conversation at the time of making various kinds of video classes for my dear learners. If notes and faults or mistakes in the middle of my video classes, please excuse me and pray to Almighty or Allah so that I can help you in this way through my various kinds of video classes throughout my life. So, my dear learners, now want to come to you again with a new argument, a new class. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.